Welcome back to the Topping Off Podcast. I'm Kevin Sterling of GC Sherpa. This show is all about real conversations with builders, remodelers, and construction professionals who are out there doing the work every day. We talk about growth, leadership, systems, marketing, challenges, and the lessons learned building successful construction businesses. Whether you're running a custom home company, remodeling firm, or trying to scale your operation, the goal is simple: share practical insights and help contractors build stronger businesses and projects together. So today we are joined by Shawn Starr of Starr Custom Homes in Jacksonville, Florida. Shawn's been building luxury custom homes and design build projects for homeowners across North Florida since 2009, with a strong focus on personalized design, outdoor living spaces, and creating homes that are tailored specifically to each client's vision. His company has built a reputation around a highly collaborative design process and a customer-first approach to custom home building. Shawn, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so if you would first give us a little bit of the backstory. Like we know you founded in 2009, but what was the impetus? Like give us the lay of the land.
I'll try to keep it short. When I was getting ready to go to college, I wanted to be an architect, and I got kind of persuaded to go into engineering instead. So I went to school for engineering. Engineering ended up being much more science oriented than I liked, and we weren't drawing any houses, and I grew up drawing houses, designing houses. I loved going to model homes and collecting floor plans. I don't know why I was connected with that, but I had building blocks, I had Legos, I had Tinker Toys, I had Lincoln Logs, I had every building toy there was. I was always drawing houses and building houses, and the engineering was just, we weren't doing anything with houses. So I ended up dropping out of engineering and just majoring in math, but then I kind of got diverted into healthcare. So I got my MBA in healthcare administration, and then I went to go work for an insurance company for 10 years. But during that time, I had the opportunity to design and custom build my own home. And that got me thinking that why couldn't I have just done what I just did for myself for other people? But I would have to learn how to build houses and get a license and so forth. So I left my very good job at the insurance company and went to work for a production builder as an estimator to learn the construction business with the eventual goal of going out on my own and doing custom homes. So while I was there, I worked in construction, I worked in purchasing, got my licensure, and so I was there about 5 years. Eventually was VP of purchasing for our home office, but then the crash happened and the economy went into the toilet, so I got laid off, and no builders were hiring at that point. So that's when I started my company.
Yeah.
And so fortunately, we've done better and better each year as the economy recovered at first and so forth. So now we're in year 16, 17 since we started. So there you go.
Fantastic. No, congratulations on sort of going the distance. And what is sort of like the scale of the company now? Like, do you have multiple crews? Like, what does it look like?
We keep it lean and mean. It's myself and a project manager. He runs our day-to-day field operations. We're doing like 3 to 6 projects in the field a year. Mm-hmm. So every client is getting a lot of personal attention. So I concentrate on the sales and design pipeline, and then my project manager handles the day-to-day operations out in the field when the jobs go to the field. And that's about as big as I want to get. I'm not looking. I think if you're getting beyond that point as a custom home builder, you're starting to, you're going to need more employees, and you start to lose touch with your clients and this very personalized approach to home building. So this is about as big as I want to get.
That's amazing. So how did you land on that ultra lean structure?
We kind of got there, and when was this? Maybe maybe 3 years ago, I had gotten to the point where I had 3 employees plus myself. And that was probably the biggest that we ever were. And we had like 10 projects going, and and we were successful at all that, but it just didn't quite feel right with me. And I felt like I was losing touch with what was happening, and I was becoming more of I'm more of a staff manager versus working more directly on what we were actually building. And because that's what happens when a company gets to a certain scale. Then as the principal person, you're just managing these departments, or you're managing process, or these other things, and you're starting to lose touch with the actual product. And I just didn't care for that. So we kind of backed off naturally. Started being a little bit more selective with what projects we were taking. And so I think we're in a really good sweet spot right now.
Yeah, no, it's I've seen it both ways where companies are growing staff and they're happy about it, and like happy being completely vertical, and then otherwise, like you said, like I like that two person team. Like, would you say that you're kind of the visionary, and then you have sort of like the integrator as your project field manager? Like, are you familiar with that operating system?
No, not the integrator piece, but in working with our clients in the design phase, we're design build, so we're hiring the architect and we're hiring the interior designer. And I'm extremely involved in the design process and I'm also managing the interior designer and the architect. So there's one chief managing the process on behalf of the client. And so that keeps the architect and the interior designer and myself very aligned because it all comes down to balancing the client's vision with their budget. No matter the size of their budget, their vision is always a little bit bigger. And you have to reconcile that, and you have to, an architect can draw anything you tell him to draw, but he isn't out there pricing trades every day. So, in fact, we just met with a prospective client who brought me a 5,000 square foot plan that they've been developing with an architect, but their budget is like half the amount they need to do that, to build that. And I was like, if you'd come to us first, we would have had the budget discussion at the front end, and I would have said, okay, 5,000 that's not going to be in the wheelhouse. You need to be more at 3,500 square feet to hit this budget figure, because that's a hard constraint. And so so that collaborative approach to the design piece on the front end is what I like to be super involved in. And then Greg, my project manager, he does a great job of, once we have all the documentation and we send it out to the field, he follows our schedule and manages our trades, does the QC, etc.
Yeah. And how are you typically finding your clients?
Predominantly through referral, and then they find us on the internet through a Google search or what have you. So, but yeah, especially being around as long as we have, the referrals are probably 2/3 to 3/4 of our leads are coming through referral.
Yeah, and that typically is what I find too, is that 60 to 80%, mark, depending on how much is being done outside of that.
Yeah.
Sort of that seems like a healthy amount. Now, do you ever find people that ask you for remodels? Like, do you entertain that, or are you just?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We typically only do larger scale. So for Northeast Florida, I say that our minimum is $100,000, but really it has to be more like 200,000 or more. So we're doing 2 renovations right now that are in the multi-$100,000 range. We did a huge project last year that was 1.6 million. It was a addition and renovation. That was basically like building a whole new house onto the existing house. So yeah, the smaller scale renovations, like a small, hall bath remodel, or we refer out to other folks. So yeah, we look at substantial renovation projects.
We have an episode coming out soon with a man from Naples, Florida, and I asked him sort of does he have a project threshold, and because he kind of said you want to help people, you want to meet people, you want to sort of like keep things flowing, and he mentioned doing some storm repair after a hurricane for somebody, and it turned out that the guy was the president of a condo association board and basically insisted that like his company fix everybody's storm damage.
Yeah.
He's like
That panned out.
$10,000 job turns into $4 million worth of
That's
work.
awesome.
Yeah, it's insane. It's crazy. How would you sort of differentiate a client that someone who's going to buy a ready to go home versus someone that's approaching you like looking for custom work?
Yeah, a used home, that's what I call them.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
You don't want to buy a used home, you want to buy a new home.
there you go.
No, I'm kidding. There's plenty of great used homes out there. Maybe we can renovate them. Um, a lot of times it comes to, first of all, if the client's at a certain price point where a custom home is a viable option for them, then you're talking about we can design and build a home that totally fits you and fits your lifestyle and is of higher quality and every finish you've gotten to select the versus an existing home that is good enough and fits enough but you might have to renovate it, you might have to do some work, you might have to do this or do that, kind of mold it as best you can into what you want it to be. Now, some people enjoy that process of home ownership, but that was really the light bulb for me when I had the opportunity to build my first custom home when I was working for the insurance company. It was such a neat experience, not only seeing the home come up out of the ground, but living in the house, and it was exactly what we wanted. I mean, it was exactly what we wanted. We wouldn't have changed anything. Every finish was what we wanted. Every room was where we wanted it. Every closet was where it was just a really great experience. And so that's what I not sell, but people who are considering custom versus buying an existing home. It's like you can really have the best of the best on the custom side, but it is typically a little bit more expensive, and it's certainly a lot more time consuming because you're looking at least an 18 to 24 month process to design and then build. And of course you have to search for a home site, which you're buying separately. So there's some different types of hurdles to jump over on the custom build side versus an existing home. So it really just depends on their situation and how quickly they need to be in something or what have you. But I would say if you're at the price point and you have the time to invest, then the custom home route in the long term is going to be a better fit for your family and your long-term happiness as far as your lifestyle in that house. And it's going to be brand new. Nothing's going to be broken. Nothing needs to be fixed. Nothing that needs to be renovated, etc.
And do you find, I guess, a difference in customer experience and expectations between a new home customer and a remodel customer? Maybe like in terms of a way that, they kind of struggle through the process?
In a lot of ways, their expectations are the same, but if there's one thing I feel like we've gotten much better at over time is setting the right expectations with all of our customers. Mm-hmm. And so with the remodel customer, we're talking, first of all, on the very front end, again, we talk about budget from the first meeting, and we talk about what's realistic, what's not realistic. We're balancing their vision with their budget. So from that perspective, we're still going through the same kind of process. Because a lot of, most people do not have an idea of what cost is, or they'll see HGTV where they're renovating a whole house for $20,000, and it's like, no, it's more like $200,000. So they've gotten some misinformation from popular media in that way. And a lot of it also is, for the remodel customer, is that cost to do what you want is completely unrelated to value, i.e. how much value is it going to add to your home, mm-hmm. or how much is your home worth, because home value depends on a whole host of other factors that have nothing to do with whether you're renovating your kitchen. So like we've renovated a house. I would say the house was worth $450 to $500, and the owners built the house 25 years ago. They're going to live in that house another 25 years until they're no longer on this earth. They dropped $200,000 on a kitchen renovation. Mm-hmm. Now, from a value perspective, I would say, is that really a great economic decision? Probably not. They're not getting $200,000 automatically added to their home value. They're getting some value in that way, but not all of it right away. But they have the intangible value of this beautiful new kitchen that they're going to enjoy for 20 years. And that's what they wanted to do. So we often talk with our renovation clients about cost versus value, what makes a good value statement for them, how do we balance that with their budget, with their vision. And on the custom home side, the value statement is usually, value of a home value is usually driven by location. I had a call a couple of weeks ago who sent me it was like a 5,800 square foot plan, but he wanted to build it in this very small town, like an hour west of Jacksonville. And I was like, well, 5,800 square feet, that's a $2.5 to $3 million project. And he's like, oh gosh, I don't think that's going to appraise where I'm at. And I'm like, it might not. In fact, it probably won't. But the cost to build it doesn't have anything to do with how it's going to appraise. I still have to pay the framers the same, the roofers the same, the windows the same, the cabinets the same. Those costs don't change just because you're building it in a rural area versus on the river. So helping people understand that, both on the home building side and on the renovation side, is part of that conversation that we're having with our clients.
Yeah. Do you find, I guess, are there any sort of like hot items that people often think they want, and then they sort of get the sticker shock of like the ROI is not there, or like the budget's not there?
I think if there's one thing that people probably tend to want to go overboard on is on cabinetry. Mm-hmm. And they might want to go say, well, I want custom cabinetry, which is, of course, you're going to get a truly custom built product that's extremely high quality, but that's also your most expensive option on cabinets. Or they want to create some sort of cabinet built in, lining a study with cabinet bookcases. Well, that's very, very expensive to build all of that out of cabinetry versus building that out of a wood species by the carpenter and then we stain it or something. That would be a less expensive alternative. That could still look really fantastic. So yeah, sometimes those kinds of things where they get the sticker shock of like this vision of all this cabinet built in a gentleman's study, it might be $50 or $60 or $70,000 worth of cabinetry just for that one room. And so then we talk about, well, how can we achieve your vision at a different price point? If you can let go of the cabinetry piece and we can do carpentry built-ins that look like this, will that work? And it's half the price or 60% of the price or whatever it is. And so you present those alternatives to them. So, but yeah, cabinetry is probably a big one. For a while it was swimming pools. During COVID, swimming pool pricing went out of the roof and they were super delayed. What was a $60,000 pool became a $150,000 pool in months. And so pool prices have tempered since then, which is good. But yeah, people were getting shocked left and right at the cost of pool building from like 2020 to 2022. It was crazy.
And we've talked a lot about the custom home so far. I guess talk to me a little bit about the outdoor living spaces that you guys are delivering. Do you do those as standalones? Are they always attached to either remodel or a custom home?
Well, we'll do like an outdoor renovation. Sorry. I thought I had turned my phone off, but we'll do an outdoor living renovation as a standalone project. So yes, we've done projects where we might put in a swimming pool and redo an outdoor kitchen or build an outdoor pavilion with a fireplace, So to me, that's just any other renovation project. It's just all outdoors. So, and then we're also very often, especially with the new home construction, I mean, we're putting in a pool and an outdoor kitchen on just about every house we're doing. So we incorporate outdoor living design as just the way we approach the home design. We talk about what are their needs in the outdoors. Do they want a kitchen area, a dining area, a seating area? Do they want a fire pit, a gazebo, a pergola? We go through all of those options with them, see what catches their interest. When we design for a house, we're talking a lot about our clients' lifestyle in the house, what they're going to be using the rooms for, how they're going to be behaving in the rooms, and we talk about the outdoor living in the same way. If they're indoor homebodies, and they just want a splash pool, that's going to be different than if they have 5 kids who are all 8 to 15, and they're going to be having pool parties with their friends. So that's a different type of lifestyle. So you design that outdoor living space to fit whatever those needs are.
Yeah. And we talked about the pools sort of coming up and tapering off in COVID. What are some just kind of other general trends you've seen over the past 5 to 10 years of things that people have wanting, both things that came and went, and then what's hot right now?
Well, swimming pools remain always popular. What's probably become it's not really an outdoor living thing, but accessory dwelling units have become more and more popular.
Sure.
So turning that pool pavilion into a sort of guest house, we've done 3 or 4 of those just in the last 2 or 3 years, and that has, I think, a lot to do with municipal laws have changed widely around being able to build a second home on a single family home lot, even as not a true separate home, but something for a mother-in-law or something like that. So with those laws kind of being relaxed on what you're able to build, we've seen a lot more activity. And then it's usually incorporated, site plan wise, it's integrated into, well, the guest house is here, the pool is here, the main house is here. And so you're still looking at the whole outdoor living piece in relation to how the house is relating to the ADU placement, and maybe another outdoor pavilion that has a fire pit or something. So, but the ADUs have definitely become more popular over the last couple of years.
Yeah, certainly, as you said, the municipal laws have changed. And then I was talking to a friend here in New York State. The state is funding them as a new housing vehicle, so they'll give you grants if you turn. Or, I think if you build ADUs or if you turn outside buildings into ADUs, do you ever target those specifically, in any of your messaging, or do you seek out those jobs, or do they just kind of come to you?
They've just kind of come to us so far, but I've actually had on one of my longer term to-do lists would be to do some more promotion around ADUs, and maybe even have 2 or 3 kind of ready to go plans of, that are pre-priced. So not true custom ADUs, but kind of some ready to go ADUs that people could plop, into their backyard. So that's kind of on my drawing board right now.
Yeah, nice. I think that's smart to be ahead of it. And I guess in terms of, certainly the customer looking for custom home, do you find them to have any kind of demographic tendencies? Are these people retiring to Florida? Are they young families? Are there any commonalities in terms of who you look for?
Well, to be in the custom home price point, you have to be on the wealthier side anyway. So yeah, very often, it's people, typically families who are in their, 40s to 60s, or people who have, mid-range to older children, or the children are already on their way out of the house. So yeah, that's typically the kinds of people that we're talking to. Families that have gotten to a point in their careers where they have that income, or the cash to, buy a separate home site, and build a custom home, and and more often than not, they're calling it their forever home. This is going to be the last home they move into, and this is going to be it. So they're going to do what they want to do to make it completely personal to them.
Yeah. And in terms of the Jacksonville market, are you finding anything that you would say is like unique to your market, or like, I know Florida in general and like Gulf Coast states with the hurricanes and whatnot, is there anything that you think is worth noting that you find uniquely in Jacksonville?
I don't know that Jacksonville's market is any more unique than any other large city market, especially in Florida. Florida's a growing state. Thousands of people are moving here all the time. Thousands of people are moving to Jacksonville all the time. We're a growing city. At the same time, we're not immune to economic shifts such as the higher mortgage rates that we're experiencing right now. And I joke because I remember when I was building my first house 20 years ago, rates were falling into the 6% range. And we were super excited to be getting 6%. And now, because people got so used to the rates being at 3%, that having them back at 6, they're like, oh my gosh, they're so high. And it's like, it's all relative. So, when I built my first house, we got in at 5 3/4, and we were like, that's the greatest rate of all time. And so in the broader economic, macroeconomic view, there's been a bit of a mix, like in the production builder side of the business, with there's still a strong demand for homes, but people, home prices have ticked up a little bit and the interest rates are high, and people might be in their house with a 2.5% interest rate, so they don't really want to move and trade out for a higher rate. And that's really caused an uptick for us in the renovation side of things. Mm-hmm. When COVID hit, we saw a huge uptick in renovation work. And then that kind of died back down. And the last year, we've seen again another big uptick in renovation work, because I think people are staying in their current homes versus moving. And so now they're reinvesting and upgrading their current homes. But I don't think that's unique to Jacksonville. I think that's what's happening, all over the place. As far as a place to live, though, Jacksonville has a ton to offer. We're right on the ocean. We've got our beautiful river. There's tons of water all over the place. So tons of golf all over the place. Lots of outdoor activities. So it's a really attractive city, and it's a very down home place to live, to raise a family. So it's not super flashy or super trendy. So it's a really great place to live.
Nice. What would you say, so you've been at it for a while, what would you say were some of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome in growing the business?
Well, the initial challenge was really coming out of the economic downturn of the late 2000s and trying to start a building business during that time. It took a good 3 to 4 years before the business really started taking off, along with the economy in general. And at that time, I was doing $5,000 remodels, $10,000 bathrooms. It was anything that we could get to just keep revenue coming in, and the houses we were building at first were smaller and not quite as high end. I would probably say if you took a production builder at the time and kind of picked the nicest things they would offer in their design center, that was where we were starting at. Mm-hmm. And I was using a lot of the production trades that I brought with me that I knew from my time at the production builder. But over time, as our product got bigger and better and more complicated, more complex and higher end, we kind of outgrew some of those trades and had to bring on other trades that had more capability with quality and complexity. And so kind of adapting as we went, was probably a long-term challenge, and we made some mistakes along the way, hired the wrong people, a wrong trade that didn't work out and messed us up, and that we had to resolve. And the other challenge is just making sure you're staying on top of the cutting edge of trends and products. That's why part of the reason people are buying custom is because they want better products, better materials, better construction techniques. For instance, like zip wall. Are you familiar with zip wall? So, production builders are using zip wall nowadays, but 15 years ago they weren't. Custom builders were the first adopters of zip wall. It was considered a high-end product. So just like a lot of things that start at the high end and then they kind of become more mainstream over time, you know, it's the same thing in the construction industry. New products come out, the custom builders start using them, they're very expensive, but then as they become more common and more mainstream and the price drops, and then you see production builders start to use them. That means custom builders need to see what's the next new thing that we need to be using to differentiate ourselves. And so we're always on the lookout for that kind of thing.
Now, you mentioned sort of like your subcontractor network. Do you actively seek out new partners? Have you worked with the same people since the beginning? Like how has that gone for you?
Well, all of the above.
Yeah, sure.
I do have some trades that have been with me since I first started,
Yeah.
which is pretty amazing. And I would say most of my trades have been with me for many years. We signed a contract just this morning, and I was talking about trade partners with my client, and I was like, part of the reason you're hiring a qualified, competent contractor is because of the team of subs and suppliers he's cultivated that stand behind him, because they're the ones that are doing the work. So no, I'm not going to go and just hire a bunch of random people that I don't know and that I would have no relationship with and certainly no recourse with if something went wrong, and that don't know our expectations and our process for building and what our schedule expectations are and our fit and finish expectations and all of those kinds of things. So yeah, having a strong trade base that's been with you, I think, is super important for a custom home builder particularly. On the production side, it's a little bit different because the product is not as complex and so the relationships are important but not quite the same as on the custom side.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned in the beginning you have your referrals and then you have your website. Do you guys do any other kind of marketing? Like, do you have truck wraps? Do you do yard signs? Any kind of other digital stuff?
We put a sign in the yard of every project that we're doing, and we've gotten calls off those signs. We're actually in the middle of updating our website and our digital media. So like I haven't posted anything in quite a few months while we work on that. But we're actually just about to roll out the new website probably the next week or so. Just updated, fresh look, and then new strategy for creating some video content, which we've not really done a lot of, and on YouTube and Instagram. So yeah, that whole rollout is coming soon.
Yeah.
But no, we don't do a ton of like paid advertising. We do run ads in a local luxury magazine, but that's about the limit of our paid advertising right now. So.
Yeah. I loved a ninja hack I heard on one of our episodes that we recorded the other week, where the builder, if he really thinks the project is exceptional, he submits it for a design award. Mm-hmm. And if they win the award, he'll pay to have the client also have the trophy. And he said it always ends up right in the front of the house. As soon as you walk in the house, you see the trophy. And so he's like, you know how many calls I get because their friends come over and say, I love your house. And they're like, well, this is an award-winning house.
It's award-winning, yeah.
And so I was like, man.
That's a good idea.
It's brilliant.
I'll have to think about that because we've won several design awards over the years. And we won a national award with NHHB, just one of the Best in American Living Awards just in February at IBS. So that was the first national award we've ever won. So we were
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I should buy a trophy for my client for their house.
Yeah, I mean, he said it's like a one-time fee and it just keeps giving, so
Yeah.
like, bang for your buck. That's good. What would you say? Do you have any kind of like projects over the years that you're like, that was the pinnacle, like that was my favorite project, or do you kind of like always have like a series of them?
Yeah, I get asked that question actually pretty frequently. People will ask, well, what was your favorite project? And it's like, we do so many unique and fun things in every project and we do something new in every project that I don't, other than perhaps my own house that I built 7 years ago. Um, I don't know that I can really say I have a favorite project that I've done but I can certainly point to, I loved what we did in this house with the great room ceiling, or I love this architectural detail that we did over here, or I love the pool that we put into this house, we did one house where we put in a super cool pool design and we wrapped a 9-hole putting green around two sides of it. It was super organic looking. It was just super cool, and the whole backyard looked awesome. It was like, I love that. That, but then on another house, we did an infinity edge pool overlooking this lake, and it was very Alice Beach themed. Everything was white, and the also extremely cool look. So yeah, there's something on every project that I really love that we are doing. I don't know that I can really pick out a favorite project overall, though.
Yeah, yeah. I want to go back real quick when you talked about your subs and like them meeting your standards and whatnot. Um, did you sort of learn how to create those frameworks from your experience before starting your company, or like are there resources that you're constantly looking at to like refine and change those, or if you would speak to that?
Well, I was fortunate in that coming out of the production builder world, part of my responsibility was writing scopes of work.
Hmm.
So in the production builder, when I was working for the other builder, we were in charge of writing and editing our scopes of work, and because it was those scopes that became part of the bid package for, we're rolling out a new community and we need to hire trades. So I was able to carry that experience into the custom side, and even though the scopes are not exactly the same, and maybe there's more fit and finish requirements on the custom side, the basic structure of a scope can stay the same. So and then that with and there's also a lot more collaboration. On the production side, it was pretty much the builders, here's the scope, I wrote it, trade, you do it. On the custom side, there's a lot more collaboration with the trade, especially if we're doing something new and we're going to figure out how are we going to execute this. What do you think? You're the expert. I'm the project manager. I know what the client wants in their vision. What's going to be our best approach? How do we work around this stud that's in the way? How do we do this? So work coming up with a scope becomes a lot more collaborative, which builds that relationship between you and the trade partner too. Now they feel like they're part of the project and not just a laborer, on it.
Yeah. And what is the vehicle that you use to deliver the scopes? Do you have a software that you manage projects with, or?
Yeah, we use Buildertrend.
Okay.
We've been on Buildertrend, 7 or 8 years now.
Nice.
I love it.
Yeah.
It was a game changer for us to go from, I was using a spreadsheet for scheduling and basically email for communicating, and get transitioning to Buildertrend and automating so many of those processes. It has been fantastic. So I could probably speak for a half-hour podcast on just how much I love Buildertrend. Not that this becomes a Buildertrend plug.
Yeah.
But it really was. I mean, automating our schedule and uploading all your documents to Buildertrend and doing all of your bidding through Buildertrend, and it streamlined our whole business. It was great.
And how do clients respond to like work? Do they have a role in Buildertrend with you as well?
Well, yeah, because there's a client portal to Buildertrends that we give to all of our clients. So we show them the full schedule. All their documents are out there all their specs are out there. We post pictures of all of their selections so they don't forget what they picked. We're running their change orders and their invoicing through Buildertrends. So yeah, when we do our pre-construction meeting with them, we run them through Buildertrend, how to use it. and all the parts that they need to be familiar with. So yeah, it's gone a long ways to helping them stay informed, on what's happening with the project.
And are there resources that you go to, like when you're stuck on something or wanting to sort of like level up skills? Like, what are some of your resources that you kind of lean on to make sure you're at the top of your game?
I can probably think of three. I subscribe, first of all, to a lot of builder magazines, which I actually do read.
Sure.
And I definitely get information, or it's like, oh, that's something I should look into further, or whether it's a new product or a new building technique, or or whatever. I go to IBS almost every year. I go to our more local SEBC conference almost every year. And I don't just go to the show floor. I usually am taking some classes as well. For me, that's my continuing education. That's how I keep my skills sharp. And then the third thing is the builder community itself. There's a handful of local builders here that if I need a trade recommendation, or if I'm running into a problem with a customer or a trade partner, I can email them and get their take on it. And plus the Builder 20 group that I'm a part of, which is super awesome. We're trading emails almost every day on some topic that somebody is working on, or a problem they're dealing with, and we're all supporting, sharing feedback on what they're doing. So those are probably the three places that I'm getting support, basically, for keeping my skills sharp and finding out new things to look at.
Yeah. And for those listeners who don't know what a Builder 20 group is, could you just speak to that really quick?
Yeah, so Builder 20 Group is sponsored by NAHB, and there's dozens of them, is my understanding, but they put together up to 20 builders from across the country, and we're all in non-competing markets. So there's full transparency between all the builders, and it's expected that there's full transparency. So you share all of your financials. We just had our meeting a few weeks ago, and everybody did a presentation on their financials, and so I know how much money everybody was making and what their margins were and how much they're paying their staff. And I mean, it's great because locally speaking, you don't really know. You can kind of surmise what you think your colleagues, competitors are charging, or what they're paying their PMs, or what their cost to build is, but nobody's going to share that information. So that's the real nice thing about these Builder 20 groups. It's like having a board of directors for your company, and we're all doing that for each other. So with the idea of making each other better. So there's an accountability piece, which is great, but it's very, very supportive, and and again, we're always emailing each other about, I ran into this problem with a client, or I'm considering this new initiative in my business, or whatever, and everybody's chiming in with their feedback, or I've already done that, here's a document you can use, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So it's a really great support system.
That's fantastic. And another plug for the NAHB, I mean, that's how you and I met, and everyone that I've interviewed from NAHB, they're people that are dedicated to the craft, like it's not just like I'm here to network and meet people. It's I want to be better at this, and I feel like in any industry that's the biggest differentiator. It's people that love the game, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, are there any nuggets of wisdom for someone who is starting their home building business that you would sort of impart to them?
Gosh.
It's a big one.
I would say I would say this to any business owner, regardless of what the business is, but take advantage of the resources available at the Small Business Administration as far as writing a business plan and a marketing plan, a strategic plan. Doing that planning on the front end, I think, makes a world of difference to the success of your business long term. Because most businesses go out of business, so they say within 3 years, because they run out of money. That's why you close your business, because you don't have any more money. So having a plan to go into your business versus just, oh, I'm just going to run by the seat of my pants and hope for the best, and as a builder, especially, I want plans to build my house. So I want a plan to build my business the same way. So I would say, first of all, take advantage of educating yourself on how to write these plans and write them well. And especially if you're going to be seeking some sort of financing or seed money, a bank is going to ask you for a plan. When I got started, I was fortunate enough to have a mentor that loaned me some money to just help me pay my personal bills while I got my business started. And I showed him my plan so that he would have some confidence that I would be able to pay him back over 5 years, So having that plan, those plans, I think is super important. And the other thing I think is having a mentor. If you can find somebody who's already in the industry who would be open to providing some support and advice, not necessarily doing it all for you, but I was fortunate enough to have that. And so before I knew other builders or was in a 20 group or whatever, this gentleman was in our industry as a supplier. So it was very helpful to be able to have breakfast with him once a month and just talk about how is my business going and what should I be looking at here or there or what have you. So having a mentor those first few years was super, super helpful.
Sure. Yeah. Amen to mentors. I had one of my mentors told me once they'll shave 10 years off of your learning curve.
For sure.
So just
100%.
Now, one thing we talked about software, but I want to make sure we just ask really quick, are you using AI in your business? And if so, how?
Okay, so I just really started using ChatGPT, I don't know, maybe this year. And yeah, as I get more comfortable with it, I'm using it more and more. Not only just for daily life stuff, but for business stuff. So chat can't help you build houses. It can't go out in the field and help you that way. So when it's, if I'm considering 2 proposals, I'll ask chat to help me with some analysis. I'm still reading them myself, of course. I think that's the smart thing to do, but sometimes chat can do a really good job of succinctly summarizing something, and then you're like, okay, that makes sense. Or sometimes I've run into a problem in the field, and I'll ask chat just to say, what would be your approach to solving this? Or can you create an analysis that I need to give to a customer that I can then kind of tweak to make sure it's in my voice and that it's accurate, of course. So yeah, I think I'm using AI more and more to assist me with my business, and I think that's what everybody needs to be doing, because AI is not going to go away, whether you like it or not. It's not going away. I remember reading just a couple of weeks ago that, especially in the arts, there's a lot of pushback against AI and AI created art, AI created music, which I get. That's fake, like fake music. Fake art instead of real artists performing or creating. But at the same time, the actress Demi Moore was at some press conference, and she was like, you have to figure out how to use AI and adapt it to you, or you're going to get left behind eventually. You can't, it's here. So you either evolve and adapt to it, figure out how to harness it, or it's because you're not going to stop it. So, and I think that's what we all need to do, is figure out how do we harness it to help us, help whatever business we're in, and and then you'll find that it can be very helpful.
It's I think you're spot on. It's not going anywhere. And I know one of the big building opportunities is the data centers, and then at the same time, the big challenges is people are opposing the data centers. So
Yeah,
I like imagining at some point people will just have like mini data centers in their house, just
probably. I
utility,
mean, the data centers take up a ton of energy and
Sure.
water.
Yeah.
And so I get the pushback on it from an environmental standpoint. So the need to find a all these servers. We're just going to have servers and servers and servers generate heat. They have to be cooled. They take up a ton of power. So yeah, I get the concern with all that. But yeah, I think eventually, just like with phones, you're carrying really a computer in your pocket. And 30 years ago, you would have never thought that was going to happen. So soon we'll be carrying servers in our pockets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So I want to certainly respect your time. So we always land episodes with a final question. That is, do you have a topping off tradition when you're building a house?
Unfortunately, no, we don't. So your question is, and even the name of your podcast is causing me to think maybe we should have one, and we can bring our client in and make a big deal about it. So I remember though when I built my first house before I was a contractor, the one that I designed. My contractor planted an American flag at the very top when they topped it off. So it was just I showed up one day and there it was. And it stayed up there for several weeks until they roofed the house. So it could be something as simple as that. Maybe we'll start doing that.
Sure. Yeah, that'll be your trademark. It's I think we said before we turned on the episode, we're like 50-50. Some people have something really unique. I really liked Antoinette Camsopa was on an episode, and she bought a pair of sneakers every time she topped off a house.
For herself?
Yeah, so it's basically like a deal trophy, like they do in
Yeah,
banking.
yeah.
So she said, she's like, I would look at my closet and I would say, like, I remember that house and that house and that house and that house. So
Hmm.
I tell her she's the winner of the best tradition.
That's
So
awesome.
fantastic. Well, Sean, again, thank you very much. And for those listeners, if you enjoyed this podcast, please feel free to like and subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or share it with a friend. Again, Sean has delivered awesome wisdom from the trenches about what it takes to run a successful custom home business. And so we can all get something from that. So, Sean, thank you again.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, see you all next time.